It's time now for a look at the latest in local news. In the news, a Wayne County jury deliberated for several hours Wednesday afternoon after listening to closing arguments in the case of the state of Georgia versus Lennis Paul Brown on trial for the February 3rd, 2023 shooting death of Zachary Johnson, which occurred in the tiny shed located at the 800 block of Community Circle. The state has 6 charges against Lennis Paul Brown, including malice murder and felony murder. And the jury found him not guilty of those charges, but found him guilty of voluntary manslaughter and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Superior Court Judge Anthony Harrison sentenced him to 20 years on the voluntary manslaughter conviction, 5 years on the weapons charge, for a total of 25 years, with the first 15 of those years to be served in prison. State's recommendation was 25 years, as Assistant DA Elizabeth Presley told the judge that Brown took the life of another human being, and Zachary Johnson is not here to tell his side of the story. Assistant DA Elizabeth Presley told the judge the jury has spoken and found him guilty for taking a life, and he must be sent to prison for that crime. Judge Harrison told Brown that the jury told him that it was a very difficult and very emotional deliberation. The judge told Brown that he hopes he can take the time away in prison to first get clean, as he was on a 3-day meth binge the day of the shooting. He says he hopes that Brown can turn his life around, but told him that he put himself in this position by using meth and strapping a pistol to his side and getting into a confrontation that day. The judge told him that he had better options than to shoot Lennis Brown. Before the sentencing, the defense called Brown's father, Alan Brown, to the witness stand. His father asked the judge for leniency on probation, said his wife just passed away in April, said his son's not a bad kid, just made a bad mistake. Defense attorney also told the judge that his client was consistent, polite, and always pleasant, telling the judge that his client's a good man who made a terrible mistake but had no intentions of harming anyone that day in that shed, but felt trapped inside. Defense attorney Arnold Regis gave over an hour closing argument, telling the jury over and over, every killing isn't a crime, every person who kills is not a criminal. What's a person to do? Asking the jury for a not guilty verdict. Assistant DA Elizabeth Presley, in her closing arguments, laid out the law to the jury, told them that they were the voice of Wayne County and it was their duty to uphold the law and find Lennis Paul Brown guilty. She told the jury that Lennis Brown was not justified in killing Zachary Johnson that day, and that Brown continually lied about using meth, lied about being attacked with a hammer. Presley told the jury that no hammer was ever found. She went over the physical evidence again in her closing, telling the jury that all the physical evidence simply went against everything Lennis Paul Brown said to detectives in that 3-hour interview. Presley kept emphasizing to the jury that this killing was simply not justified. It was simply a terrible choice by Brown, that Brown, after the shooting, did not stick around but ran and left town. Again, Assistant DA Presley asked the jury for a guilty verdict, and again got the guilty verdict the state was seeking. Again, guilty of voluntary manslaughter and guilty of possession of a firearm during commission of a felony, 25 years with the first 15 to be served in prison. In other court news, there was a crazy day in courtroom B, a domestic case in which one person did not like the ruling of the judge, Carla Powell from Hazelhurst, Georgia. Shante Monique Curry went after the judge in court, throwing a microphone at the judge, throwing her shoe at the judge, going towards the judge, but a bailiff stepped in between her and the judge, and Curry hit the bailiff with her fist. Curry is in jail, charged with aggravated assault, disorderly conduct, and several other charges. And all this taking place yesterday in courtroom B. Fortunately, the bailiff okay, and the judge not harmed, but a wild scene in the courtroom. Again, Shante Monique Curry going after the judge, again throwing a birther shoe and microphone at the judge and striking the bailiff. We'll be back with more news after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. In other news, a pilot and 5 passengers walked away without injuries Monday in that plane accident which occurred around 1 p.m. Monday at the William A. Zorn Airport, as a twin-engine turbo-wing passenger plane was located just off the north end of the runway, facing east just short of the airport perimeter fence bordering the Pine Forest Country Club. Pilots stated that everything was good, that they had just touched down for a landing when all of a sudden the plane veered to the left like there was some type of mechanical failure with the landing gear or tower. Said he tried to rudder and tried to compensate for the left veer, but the plane came to a final rest in a grassy wetland area just off the runway. Last names of the passengers have been released: Mr. Johnson from Mount Pleasant, Texas; Mr. Schuring from Waycross, Georgia; Mr. Bivens from West Palm Beach, Florida; Ms. Rivera from Coleman, Florida; Mr. Lorick from Ocala, Florida, and Mr. Dubberly from Rooks Drive, Georgia. Plane that day went from Baxley to Ocala, then from Ocala to Jesup. They were picking up another passenger at the Jesup airport and then headed to Nashville, Tennessee. Once again, everyone on board the plane walked away without any injuries. Scary event occurred Wednesday afternoon at Kobe's restaurant as a lady was sitting in the restaurant eating lunch when a gold in color Toyota car driven by an elderly female in her early 90s came through the building and struck her. The victim was treated by EMS and then transported to the hospital in stable condition. At the time, no more information as police state they're working on a press release. Tonight at the Kay Cagle Theater, a special event entitled Wayne's Got Talent. Local hospice and Boys and Girls Club have joined each other for the event. Tickets just $10. The show begins tonight at 6:30. Here's a list of the contestants tonight: Allie Flitterman, Alyssa Lee Johnson, Bailey Bryant, Braxton Westbury, Bristol Massara, Felinda Johnson and Katrina Bergens, the Babes in Blue, Crystal Keith, Marcarius Williams, Riley Godwin, and Robert Thornton, all taking stage tonight in the first Wayne's Got Talent at the high school auditorium. Tickets once again $10. If you need a ticket today, call Kylie McGregor at 912-432-9339. Chamber of Commerce has an event coming up in September 5th at Coastal Pines Technical College entitled Brew and Build, Creating Success for Your Business One Cup at a Time. It's tailored for small businesses. The session takes place September the 5th from 8:30 to 10 a.m. at the Coastal Pines Technical College. Cost for a member is $15, for non-members $30. Again, the Chamber asks that you pre-register by today by simply calling the Chamber at 912-427-2028. We'll be back with some final news notes after this word from our sponsor of the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes in the news: the Wayne County Board of Education on Tuesday voted unanimously to name Jana Collins interim superintendent effective now through September the 17th. Then their former CFO, Tony Williams, will become the interim school superintendent from September the 18th through June 30th of 2025. Williams is the one who was hired by the Board of Education to come in and do the study of their financials and then made that report, which led to the board and the superintendent agreeing to part ways as the two parties agreed on a buyout. Williams has agreed to join us on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show a week from today. Again, it'll take place on Thursday, September the 5th. WIFO-FM had to file an open records request to get a copy of her report that she made at that public meeting, and we just received it a few days ago. Been reading through it, and it's information that everyone in Wayne County or anyone who cares about the school system in general should read. Here's just 2 pages of the report. First, budget methodology issues. The following issues were discovered during the review of the budget. Budget Prep Module has employees charged to federal programs that are part of the consolidation. Budget Prep Module has employees charged to ESSER 3 ARP $600,000. Budget Prep Module not being utilized to calculate non-certified employees' health insurance. Current year ending fund balance not calculated correctly for budgeting purposes. Budget amendment issues. Budget amendments were not performed as required. Numerous federal programs' budget revenues did not match expenditures. General fund budget not amended for grants and QBE midterm allocation. Budget versus actual report and audit report not accurate due to budget amendments not being performed. Failure to perform budget amendments and engage the purpose of the budget as an accountability tool. Failure to perform budget amendments skews the historical data for future budget preparation. Fiscal year 22 audit issues, significant deficiency in internal controls over financial reporting, partially resolved as the fiscal year 23 audit. Reports presented to the Department of Audits had significant errors. Capital projects, expenditures, contracts payable, and retainage payable were underestimated by an approximate $1.9 million. Retention bonuses paid contractors $281,267. Fiscal year 23 audit issues, significant deficiency in internal controls over financial reporting. Reports presented to the Department of Audits had significant errors. Misclassification of contracts payable related to capital projects, $1.1 million. Debt service was reported with a negative fund balance of $766,675. School district did not comply with the GSAB. And again, this just 2 pages of many documents presented to the Board of Education at that work session by former CFO Tony Williams, now going to be the interim superintendent. And again, our guest on the world famous Butch and Bob Show, September the 5th, a week from today. And again, we're going to continue to go through the report, bring more of it to you here on the local news. Again, it's a very damaging report to what was taking place with the financials over the last several years. That's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan saying have a great day.